I never thought of myself as a particularly vengeful person. In fact, if you had asked my friends about me a year ago, they would have used words like steady, reliable, and maybe even a little bit boring. I was the person who stayed late at the office to double-check the spreadsheets and the one who remembered everyone's birthday. I was the woman who believed in the slow and steady build of a life well lived. I had a beautiful home in the suburbs, a career that was finally hitting its stride, and a husband named Mark who I thought was the anchor to my soul. But the thing about anchors is that they are designed to keep things from moving, and sometimes they just drag you down into the dark, cold depths until you can no longer breathe. It started with a receipt. I know, it is such a cliche that it almost feels embarrassing to admit. I found it in the pocket of one of Mark's expensive wool coats while I was dropping it off at the dry cleaners. It was a small, crumpled slip of paper from a high-end jewelry boutique downtown. The date was 3 days before our 10th anniversary. My heart had done a little flutter of excitement when I saw it. I spent the next 3 days imagining a diamond pendant or perhaps a vintage gold bracelet. I even practiced my surprised face in the mirror because I wanted him to feel like the hero of the story. But when our anniversary dinner at that overpriced French bistro came and went, there was no velvet box. There was only a nice bottle of wine and a card that said he loved me more than words could say. I tried to tell myself there was a logical explanation. Maybe he bought it for his mother. Maybe he returned it because he didn't think I would like it. But that tiny seed of doubt had been planted, and it grew with the speed of a poisonous vine. I started noticing things. The way he tilted his phone screen away from me when he was texting. The way he started going to the gym at 9 o'clock on Tuesday nights. The way he suddenly smelled like a perfume that was far too heavy and floral for my taste. I didn't want to be the woman who snooped. I truly didn't. But one night while he was in the shower, the curiosity became a physical weight in my chest. I picked up his phone. He had changed his passcode, but I knew him. I knew him better than he knew himself. I tried his mother's birthday. Nothing. I tried our anniversary. Nothing. Then I tried the date he got his big promotion at the firm. The screen slid open. I found the messages within seconds. Her name was Alina. The texts were graphic, breathless, and filled with a kind of passion that Mark hadn't shown me in years. He told her she was the only one who truly understood him. He told her that his life with me was a gray, lifeless desert and she was his oasis. He had spent thousands of dollars on her. The jewelry, the hotel rooms, the weekend trips he claimed were for business. As I sat on the edge of our king-sized bed, listening to the sound of the shower running and my husband humming a cheerful tune, I felt my world shatter. But I didn't cry. Not then. A strange, cold clarity settled over me. I realized that if I confronted him, he would lie. He would gasp at me. He would say it was a mistake, or that he was lonely, or that it was my fault for being too focused on work. He would try to take half of everything I had built. He would walk away with his dignity and a hefty chunk of my savings. I couldn't let that happen. I needed something more than a divorce. I needed a total, systematic destruction of the man who thought I was too boring to notice his betrayal. That was the night I decided to hire Maya. I found her through a series of encrypted forums and word of mouth in circles that most people don't even know exist. She didn't call herself a private investigator or a life coach. She was a closer. Her specialty was controlled demolition. We met in a dimly lit corner of a library, a place where people go to be silent. Maya was stunning, but in a way that felt engineered. She had dark, sharp eyes and a smile that never quite reached them. I told her everything. I told her about the receipt, the messages, and the way Mark looked at me with pity every morning. I told her I wanted him gone, but I wanted him to be the one who lost everything first. Maya leaned back and tapped a manicured fingernail against the table. "You want to ruin him," she whispered. "That takes time, and it takes a very specific kind of pressure. If you just catch him cheating, he is a jerk. If we make him lose his mind, his career, and his reputation, he is a failure. Which one do you want?" I didn't hesitate. "I want him to be a failure," I said. "I want him to wonder how he ended up with nothing." Maya smiled then, and for the first time I felt a shiver of genuine fear. "Very well," she said. "Here is how we do it. You are going to pay me to be the mistress he actually wants. Not this Alina girl. She is a distraction. I am going to be the obsession." The plan was brilliant in its cruelty. Step 1 was removing Alina from the picture. Maya handled that with terrifying efficiency. A few anonymous tips to Alina's own husband about her whereabouts, a few carefully placed photos, and suddenly Mark's little oasis was a battlefield. Alina vanished from his life in a cloud of legal threats and screaming matches. Mark was devastated, which was exactly what we wanted. He was vulnerable. He was looking for someone to fill the void. That was when Maya stepped in. She staged a meet cute at his favorite coffee shop near the office. She dropped her book, he picked it up, and just like that, the trap was set. Within 2 weeks, Mark was obsessed. He told me he was working on a massive new account that required late nights and weekend strategy sessions. I played the part of the supportive, oblivious wife to perfection. I packed his lunches, I kissed him goodbye, and I even suggested he take a spa day because he looked so stressed. All the while, I was receiving daily reports from Maya. She was documenting every cent he spent on her, every secret he whispered in the dark, every unethical shortcut he had ever taken at his firm. I had given Maya a budget of $50,000 of my own secret inheritance money to facilitate the ruse. She used it to rent a high-end apartment, buy a wardrobe that screamed old money, and create a persona that Mark found irresistible. She was the wealthy, sophisticated woman who saw his hidden genius. She encouraged his worst impulses. She told him he was too big for his firm. She convinced him that he should start his own consultancy and that she would provide the seed money. Of course, the seed money didn't exist, but Mark was too blinded by lust and ego to see the red flags. The tension in our house was thick enough to cut with a knife, though Mark didn't seem to notice. He was living in a fantasy world. One evening, he came home looking particularly manic. He poured himself a glass of scotch and sat across from me at the kitchen island. "Sarah," he said, his eyes bright with a feverish light, "I think it is time for a change. I have been thinking about our future, and I think I need to strike out on my own. I am resigning from the firm tomorrow." I felt a surge of triumph, but I kept my face neutral. "Mark, are you sure? That is so risky. We have the mortgage, the insurance." He waved a hand dismissively. "I have investors lined up. Big ones. This is the big break I have been waiting for. I am tired of making other people rich." He resigned the next day. He did it in the most bridge-burning way possible, insulting his senior partners and claiming he was taking his best clients with him. What he didn't know was that Maya had already spent the last month subtly contacting those same clients, pretending to be a representative of a rival firm, and leaking information about Mark's erratic behavior and personal instability. By the time Mark reached out to them to join his new venture, they wouldn't even take his calls. He was a pariah in the industry. He had spent 15 years building. But the financial ruin was only the beginning. I wanted him to feel the sting of social isolation. Maya began to pull back. She started acting distant, telling him that her family was questioning her association with a man who was currently unemployed and technically still married. Mark panicked. He started selling off his assets to keep up the appearance of wealth. He sold his car. He cashed out his 401k. He was throwing money into a black hole, trying to buy back the affection of a woman I was paying to hate him. It was a Tuesday night when the final phase began. Mark was at the apartment he thought Maya owned, pleading with her to stay with him. I was at home, sitting in the dark, watching the feed from the hidden cameras Maya had installed. I watched as he got down on one knee. I watched as he offered her a ring that must have cost him the last of his liquid savings. And then I watched as Maya laughed. It wasn't a cruel laugh, exactly. It was a laugh of pure, clinical amusement. "Mark," she said, her voice echoing through my laptop speakers, "you really are a pathetic little man, aren't you?" Mark froze. "What are you talking about? I love you. I gave up everything for you." Maya stood up and walked over to the window, looking out at the city lights. "You didn't give up anything for me," she said. "You gave it up because you are weak. You are greedy. And you are remarkably easy to manipulate. Did you really think a woman like me would want a man who betrays his wife so casually? A man who destroys his own career out of pure ego?" Mark was shaking. "I don't understand." Maya turned back to him, her face a mask of cold indifference. "I think it is time you talk to your wife, Mark. She has been waiting for you to come home." He burst through the front door an hour later. I was sitting in the living room, the lights dimmed, with a folder of documents spread out on the coffee table. He looked like a ghost. His clothes were disheveled and his eyes were bloodshot. "Sarah," he gasped. "Sarah, something terrible has happened. That woman, she is crazy. She is a con artist." I grabbed his hand and looked him right in the eye. "I know, Mark," I said softly. "I know exactly who she is. I am the one who hired her." The silence that followed was the most beautiful thing I have ever heard. It stretched on for minutes as the reality of the situation slowly filtered through his brain. He looked at the documents on the table. They were bank statements, photos, and a detailed log of every lie he had told over the past 6 months. There was also a divorce settlement agreement. It was heavily lopsided in my favor. Given the evidence of his financial dissipation and his voluntary resignation from his job, he was in no position to fight. "You did this," he whispered. "You spent all that money just to ruin me." I stood up and walked toward the kitchen to pour myself a glass of water. "It wasn't just about the money, Mark. It was about the time. You spent years making me feel like I was the background noise in your life. You thought I was too dull to notice your betrayals. I wanted you to see what happens when the background noise decides to turn up the volume. I wanted you to understand that I am the one who built this life, and I am the one who can take it away." He tried to argue. He tried to cry. He even tried to blame me, saying that if I had been more attentive, he wouldn't have looked elsewhere. But I didn't care anymore. The man standing in my living room wasn't the anchor I once loved. He was just a hollow shell, a failed experiment in trust. I told him he had 20 minutes to pack a bag and leave. If he didn't, I would call the police and show them the evidence of the corporate espionage and client poaching he had attempted while setting up his fake firm. It was a bluff, mostly, but he was too broken to know that. As I watched him shuffle out the door with a single suitcase, I didn't feel the surge of joy I expected. I felt a quiet, profound sense of peace. I had spent $50,000 and 6 months of my life on a project of pure destruction, and it was worth every penny. Maya had vanished that same night. Our contract was complete. She had been the perfect mistress, the perfect weapon, and the perfect mirror for Mark's own vanity. In the weeks that followed, I finalized the divorce. I kept the house. I kept the investments. I kept my dignity. Mark moved into a cramped studio apartment on the edge of town. He took a job as a low-level clerk at a firm that was a fraction of the size of his old one. He reached out to me a few times, sending long, rambling emails about forgiveness and starting over. I never replied. I didn't need to. Every time I looked at my reflection in the mirror, I didn't see the boring, reliable wife anymore. I saw a woman who knew the value of a well-placed investment. The most shocking part of it all wasn't the cheating or the ruin. It was how easy it was. People think that revenge is a hot, impulsive thing, but the best kind is cold and calculated. It is a business transaction. I paid a professional to play a role, and she played it to perfection. Mark didn't fall because of a mistress. He fell because he was a man who believed his own lies. He thought he was the protagonist of a grand romance, never realizing he was just a minor character in my story. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder about Maya. I wonder if she is out there right now, sitting in a quiet library, waiting for another woman with a crumpled receipt and a broken heart. I wonder if she enjoys the work or if it is just a job to her. But then I realize it doesn't matter. She was the tool I needed at the time. I often think about the moment Mark realized the truth, the way his face crumbled, the way his voice hitched. It is a memory I hold on to, not out of malice, but as a reminder of my own power. I eventually sold the house. It held too many ghosts of the woman I used to be. I moved to the city, took a better job, and started over on my own terms. I don't look for anchors anymore. I prefer to sail. My friends still think of me as steady and reliable, and I let them. There is a certain safety in being underestimated. They ask me how I handled the divorce so well, how I stayed so strong through the betrayal. I just smile and tell them that I decided to focus on my future. They don't need to know about the mistress. They don't need to know about the money or the cameras or the systematic dismantling of a human being. Every now and then, I see Mark's name on social media. He looks older, tired, and deeply unhappy. He posts quotes about resilience and the importance of character, which I find endlessly hilarious. He still doesn't get it. He still thinks he was a victim of bad luck and a manipulative woman. He doesn't realize that he was the architect of his own collapse. He provided the materials, I just provided the spark. Looking back, I realized that the $50,000 was the best money I ever spent. It wasn't just for the revenge. It was for the education. I learned that loyalty is a choice, trust is a luxury, And if you are going to pay someone to ruin your husband, you should always make sure she is better at her job than he is at his. The story of my marriage ended in a courtroom, but the story of my life began the moment I walked into that library. I often think about the jewelry receipt that started it all. I never did find out what happened to that necklace. I imagine Alina is wearing it somewhere, a cheap trinket from a man who never really loved her. Or maybe she sold it to pay for her own divorce lawyer. It doesn't matter. To me, that receipt wasn't a sign of loss. It was an invitation to a new life. It was the price of admission for the most expensive and satisfying show I have ever seen. The house in the suburbs is gone now, replaced by a sleek apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlook the river. I don't have a husband, and I don't have a mistress, but I have something much better. I have the knowledge that I am capable of anything. I have the peace that comes from knowing exactly who I am and what I am worth. And I know that if I ever find myself in a gray, lifeless desert again, I won't wait for an oasis. I will build a city. The world is full of people who think they can take what they want without consequence. They think they can hide behind smiles and empty promises. They think the people who love them are too weak or too blind to see the truth. But they are wrong. Some of us are watching. Some of us are waiting. And some of us have a very good lawyer and a very high limit on our credit cards. Mark thought he was playing a game he could win, but he never understood the rules. He never understood that in a world of lies, the person who pays for the truth is the only one who truly survives. I remember the last thing Maya said to me before she disappeared. We met one last time at a neutral location to settle the final invoice. She looked at me with a curiosity I hadn't seen before. Most people feel guilty after this is over, she said. They feel like they went too far. Do you? I looked at the city skyline, feeling the weight of the folder in my lap. I felt the breeze on my face and the steady beat of my own heart. No, I said. I feel like I finally got what I paid for. She nodded, tucked the check into her purse, and walked away without another word. Since then, my life has been remarkably quiet. I focus on my work, I travel, and I spend time with people who actually value my company. I am more careful now, of course. I vet people more thoroughly. I look for the small cracks in their stories, but I am not bitter. Bitterness is for people who have been defeated. I am a victor. I am the woman who took a betrayal and turned it into a masterclass in strategy. I am the woman who paid a mistress to ruin the man I loved, and in doing so, I saved myself. Sometimes I wonder if Mark ever thinks about the jewelry receipt. I wonder if he ever looks back and tries to pinpoint the exact moment it all went wrong. He probably thinks it was the day he met Maya. He probably thinks it was a fluke, a bit of bad luck that he crossed paths with a woman so heartless. He will never know that it was the woman sitting across from him at the dinner table every night who was the real mastermind. He will never know that his ruin was budgeted, scheduled, and executed with professional precision. And that is the best part. The secrecy is the final layer of the revenge. He lives in a world of his own making, haunted by the ghosts of what he lost, while I live in the reality I created. He is a cautionary tale, and I am the author. Sometimes I think about writing him a letter, just to tell him the truth, but then I realize that would be giving him too much. I would be giving him a reason to hate me, and I would rather he just be baffled by his own failure. Indifference is a much sharper blade than hatred. The sun is setting now, casting long orange shadows across my living room floor. It is a beautiful evening. I think I will go out for a nice dinner, maybe at that French bistro Mark liked so much. I will sit at a table for one, order the best bottle of wine on the menu, and toast to the woman I used to be. She was a good woman, a kind woman, but she didn't know how to fight. I am glad she is gone. I am glad I replaced her with someone who knows that sometimes you have to burn down the old world to make room for the new one. I often think about the word mistress. It has such a heavy, scandalous connotation. It implies a secret power, a hidden influence. In my case, it was exactly that. Maya was the mistress of Mark's destruction, but I was the mistress of the entire operation. I was the one who pulled the strings. I was the one who saw the potential for ruin and had the courage to act on it. People might call it cruel or vindictive or cold. They can call it whatever they want. I call it justice. I call it a return on investment. As the years pass, the memory of Mark fades a little more each day. He is like a photograph left in the sun, losing his color and his sharp edges until he is just a blur of a person. I don't hate him anymore. I don't even really think about him unless something reminds me of the specific shade of his desperation. He is a footnote in a much longer and more interesting story. He was a lesson I had to learn, and I learned it well. My life is full now, but it is a different kind of full than it was before. It is not filled with the clutter of other people's expectations or the weight of a dying marriage. It is filled with the things I choose. My home is a sanctuary. My career is a source of pride. My friends are genuine. And when I look at the jewelry I wear now, I know exactly who bought it. I bought it. With the money I kept, with the life I reclaimed, and with the strength I found in the middle of a betrayal. I suppose if there is a moral to this story, it is that you should never underestimate the quiet ones. You should never assume that because someone is kind and reliable, they are also weak. Because when the quiet ones finally have enough, they don't scream. They don't throw plates. They don't make a scene. They just quietly, efficiently, and thoroughly remove you from their lives. And if they have to pay someone to help them do it, they will consider it the best investment they ever made. I am sitting on my balcony now, watching the lights of the city flicker to life. The air is cool and smells of rain. It is a perfect night. I think about the $50,000 I spent and I smile. It was a lot of money, but then again, freedom always has a price. And for the first time in my life, I can honestly say that I am worth every cent. I'm not the woman Mark betrayed. I'm not the woman who found a receipt in a coat pocket. I am the woman who took control of the narrative. I am the scriptwriter of my own life. And I have to say, the ending I wrote is much better than the one he had planned. The mistress I paid to ruin him is long gone, but the lessons she taught me remain. She taught me that perception is reality. She taught me that ego is a vulnerability. And she taught me that sometimes the only way to save a life is to destroy the one you are currently living. I don't know where she is now, and I don't need to. Our work is done. The contract is closed. The past is a closed book, and the future is a wide, open road. And as I sit here, watching the world go by, I know that I am finally, truly free. I look at my hands, steady and calm, and I realize that the anchor is gone. I am no longer being dragged down into the depths. I am floating. I am rising. I am exactly where I am supposed to be. And Mark is exactly where he deserves to be. In a small, dark room, wondering how a man who had everything ended up with nothing at all. He will never know the answer. He will never know that the person he should have feared the most was the one who loved him the best. And that is the most perfect twist of all.